Hello. For this session of the Turnaround Fellowship podcast, I wanted to go the film route rather than having to type everything out again, in part because I frankly just get tired of typing from time to time, and also because I wanted you to be able to see body language. I wanted you to be able to see and hear what I really mean as I do this next one. This is the one where I want to talk about the need for increased ministry skill in churches of Christ. I certainly don't want to suggest just from the outset that people in churches of Christ don't know what they're doing or that we don't have immensely capable ministers out there. I do think, however, that we tend to not view ministerial expertise as highly as we ought to. Now, what I mean by expertise is not that a person adheres to a certain set of ideas or that they have a certain amount of knowledge, although I certainly think that helps and is probably a piece of it. What I mean is asking the question, is what we're doing working? Working. Now, to say working, you have to define, well, what does it mean to work? All right? What does it mean to see that it's working? Well, to me, it just means the stated vision and mission of the church to make disciples. Are we doing that? Are we creating deeper people, more devoted people? Are we evangelizing? Are we seeing people come to know Christ? Are we even trying very hard to do those things? And if we're able to say yes, then I think we continue to just ask God to keep blowing wind and fire on our church so that we can continue to do it. If not, I think what we do is we go back before the Lord and say, Lord, it feels to us like what we're doing is not working. So would you either help us see how we need to improve, or will you be willing to give us a new vision? Will you be willing to show us where we've gone astray? And then to have the humility to acknowledge that what we're doing is not working. In a lot of places, it's just the simple admission, what we're doing now is not working. That would lead to a lot of effective change. That doesn't mean that every Sunday is going to be like Pentecost at your church, even when things aren't working. Most churches don't have a year after year after year of explosive growth or explosive spiritual development. It's usually an indexing upward, meaning you have some years that are really good and you have some where you might take a dip and you might have some that are kind of flat, but over time there should be progression. And if there's not, then it takes humility for a church to be able to back up and to say, what we're doing now does not seem to be working. And because God has put us in existence for a purpose, we care about that purpose too much to just treat it lightly. And so whatever we need to do, if it's humbling ourselves before the Lord, asking for new guidance, new vision, if it's continuing to hone our skill, which I think in churches of Christ is a big, big piece of this, that we tend to go looking for ideas and looking for knowledge rather than practice. First, and not only, but first, I think we tend to value not people who do ministry particularly well, meaning that the fruit of their ministry is abundant, as much as we do people whose ideas are abundant. And in truth, you need both. Churches of Christ can benefit from both, and much of the expertise and practical skill that exists comes because we have so many wonderful scholars. But at another level, it would be really good for churches of Christ to back up a little bit and to ask church leaders who seem to be bearing fruit in their ministry how God has led them to the point they're at, how they went about making the decisions they made, why did they make the decisions they made? And I think that just simple desire to get better at ministry, to listen, to study, to watch, and then to do, and to then simply say, we're going to do what we can to make sure that with the opportunity God's given us here in this place, that we're going to do the absolute best we can to bear fruit. Remember, bear fruit is not just raw growth. It's comprehensive discipleship making. Okay, it's taking Anybody that walks through the door, anybody that can be encountered in any avenue of your town, and taking them from wherever they may be spiritually to a growing relationship with Christ, and continuing then to work on that over time, continuing to cultivate more depth, more maturity over time. And I think that we will do a lot better as churches of Christ by not just stating that as a goal, but by pursuing it relentlessly and saying we're going to acquire whatever skills we need, if it's more equipping on ministerial strategy or technique or worship ministry or technology or Bible study or prayer or what have you. But we're going to be willing to go to school, not just in the realm of ideas, but in the realm of practice. And we want to know how to do this better. Ministry is very hard. To do it well, it's very, very hard. That's why most churches in America are either plateaued or in decline. And it's not easy. Not any monkey can do it. And so the priesthood of all believers, we should not take that to mean that anybody can do anything, as much as we should take it as a call to say God wants everybody to be a part of what he's doing in the world. And so for some that's going to mean one thing, for some it's going to mean others, but we all best get about doing it so that we can stop some of the trends that we're seeing in churches of Christ and try to be relevant in this age, even as we remain faithful to Jesus and his calling. I'll be back with the second part of this tomorrow.